Alabama is at Tennessee Saturday, 3:30 Eastern Time kickoff on ABC. It is not the first, not the second, but the third Saturday in October. This game's so intense. Last time we were in that building, Director Colin was actually with me. Last time we were in that building, the goalpost ended up in the river. It was an outdoor venue, but people still got smoke inhalation on the field. A small word of wisdom to Kalen DeBoer down there, who has been under fire for everything from his defensive hires to his dress on game days. I know they asked him about the cigar. My advice to him, I don't care if he smokes. I don't smoke either. But if I'm the head coach at Alabama, I'm going to do what Saban did at least. If I win this game, I'll at least chew on a cigar. The photo op of the winning head coach in this game with the cigar in the mouth is worth like 1 to 2 years extra on the tail end of your career. I promise you, that's free advice. I promise you I'm right on this. Why is Alabama not running the ball better with their tailbacks? You will never convince me that shouldn't be a strength of this team. Why is Tennessee sitting in a position where Josh Heupel is your head coach? I got Nico Iamaleava, who looks like a weapon amongst weapons at quarterback to the eyes, and you've been shut out 2 first halves in a row. These are the whys that I take into this game. Now, I'm going to say something here. It's going to sound crazy, especially if you've watched Tennessee the last couple of weeks. I think that if you're hating on Tennessee's offense and you're just selling the potential of this season down the river, you're doing it at your own peril. There's a big difference. I think friend of the program, acquaintance of the program, Cole Kubelik, did a really good job the other night. See, they put that guy on national TV, and you turn him loose long enough, he's going to make some good points. And he went into great detail. I encourage you guys to go watch this. He went into great detail talking about how different it is for a scheme to be flawed versus execution to be flawed. And he came with receipts, and he pointed out several examples. Fumbling the ball, screwing up the mesh point, overthrowing receivers, dropped balls. These are not scheme problems. These are execution problems. So when you go back and you watch Tennessee's offense through that lens, and then you try and fast forward to the Bama game, what it makes me think is there could be a click moment for this offense coming. And if you've watched Bama's defense over the last few weeks, what better unit to get right against than that Alabama defense? Bama's run D is not great. I've got Dylan Sampson Jr., if I'm Tennessee, over 90 yards every game so far this year. Overthrows and fumbles and bounces of ball, those are all part of my past so far this year, but doesn't always have to be part of my future. If I just small fractions of inches correct these things, who knows? I may go from having 0 on the board at halftime to having 23 on the board at halftime. And then it's game on, because once you got that juice back, once you got that energy back, you know what this game is like. All of us have watched this game before. We know what it's like. Alabama's defense is 120th in the country in plays run against. They live on the field. Bama's defense just lives on the field. First off, because they can't get off the field on third down. And secondly, because if Bama's offense is not scoring, they're going 3 and out. Not a good combination. So, one thing I'll be watching is what I call EDW, new acronym on the show tonight, and that just means extended drive watch. And if we're watching Tennessee in the first half, they don't have to be racking up the points per se, but if they're going on these 10, 12, 13 play drives, don't even care if it ends in field goals. It matters for the second half of this game. Now, Jalen Milroe needs a step-up game here. Jalen Milroe, I don't even know what the Heisman odds right now are. If he's in them, he needs to justify it. I assume he's still in them. He needs to justify it. He had some shaky decision-making last week against South Carolina. Probably as weird as I've seen him look all year. I'm not going to sit here and pretend to tell you I know what the play calls were. I'm not telling you any of that. Where was I? I was in Oregon. I was holding a mic in my hand. I was on the air with, among other folks, Damian Harris, who had a vested emotional interest. And we're live on air. He's in Florida. I'm in Oregon. And we're watching this game unfold, and you're like, man, Milroe looks uncomfortable. Man, what is South Carolina doing to him? So that can't be the case this week. And there are plays to be made against this Tennessee secondary. I think it's been there all year. It's just that they haven't faced a litany of quarterbacks that are really, really good at generating explosive plays. This will be the best one they faced all year. Milroe's got to hit them. And ideally, he would hit those because Alabama has run the ball half decently with Justice Hayes and Jam Miller, along with Jalen Milroe using his legs. And that leads me to my second question. What do I get from Jalen Milroe's legs here, because Tennessee in this game last year bottled him up very well. He had one good run. Jesse, what did we see? Like one 15-yard run when we rewatched this game. And other than that, it was not off to the races for Jalen Milroe in this game last year. So we have what we call padlock stats on the show. And that is the kind of stat where if I tell you a stat on Friday, you don't even need to watch the game. You know how it's going to go. And I have a sneaking suspicion that the padlock stat for this one will just be explosive plays. Because even though Tennessee's been shut out in the first half the past couple of weeks, the explosive play potential is there, especially against this Alabama defense right now. The explosive play potential is there. Certainly the explosive play potential for Alabama is there. I'd be surprised if Bama didn't hit a few explosives against Tennessee. How many do they hit? Tackling. Also, when you think about explosive plays and the way Tennessee can generate them, I know the mind goes to Nico just airing it out over the top. It doesn't have to be that. It doesn't even have to be Dylan Sampson ripping one off for 60 yards between the tackles and he gets loose in the secondary. Linebacker misses, as they've been known to do lately. Doesn't have to be that either. What it could be is you just hit one of these receivers out on the perimeter and a 2-yard catch turns into a 65-yard gain because they don't tackle well. Like that could also be the case. You just, however you generate them, you got to get them if you're Tennessee. And if you're Alabama, Jeremy Bernard just needs to be more of what he's been. Ryan Williams, sort of kind of quiet last week, needs to have one of those Georgia games here. Alabama their situational awareness has lacked, I think, this year. I think that's a fair thing to say. They've been very penalized. They're 119th in the country in penalties. Now, Tennessee's 88th, so there's not really one big edge in that category here or there. Tennessee being they did lose Keenan Peely. That is a defensive captain right there in the middle for him. He was the green dot for him. He was the play caller. It is a big loss. It is a very, very big loss. And honestly, it played into how I think this game's going to go. By the way, we got a lot of folks watching, both live and watching the replay. Do me a favor. Show's free. We always want to keep it free. Just make sure you subscribe to the channel. And that's it. Doesn't cost you a thing. No strings attached. No email list you get signed up to. It just helps us. Colin, let's take a look at what the model thinks. FanDuel right now has Alabama favored in Neyland. Alabama minus 2.5. The model looks at that and says, wrong team's favored. Yes, the model just outright thinks Tennessee should be favored by 1.5. Leaned heavily Tennessee in this game. Then I leaned slightly Tennessee. Don't like Peely being out at all. Don't feel ultra confident on either side. But if I think this is an explosive play game, which I think it will be, I think that'll be the padlock stat, I trust Alabama a lot more generating those right now than I do Tennessee, with the caveat that I also think there is a click moment coming for Tennessee's offense this season at some point where they all of a sudden generate them in bunches. I'm going to roll the dice and say that doesn't happen this week to the degree that it would take them to win the game. Look at my handshake. It's for effect. Look, I can hold my hand still. But still, I am nervous about this pick, but I am slightly rolling with Alabama to win, and since they're favored by 2.5, I guess I'll take them to cover as well. We will be at this game.